I am joined now by former schools chancellor David Banks. I have to talk to you about the mayoral campaign, but about the proposal made by Zohran Mamdani that he would like to eliminate mayoral control of schools. Now, he hasn't said exactly what he wants to replace it with, but I wonder how you feel about that idea that the mayor wouldn't be the sole arbiter of what goes on in the schools.
I think that's a challenge. I think that'll be a real challenge for whoever the next mayor would be, if it were to be, in fact, Mayor Mamdani. I think he might regret that because as somebody who did 40 years in the system, and I saw what the system looked like before you actually had mayoral control, or what I like to refer to, Marcia, as mayoral accountability. There was a time when it seemed like no one was really in charge of the schools, and every district was doing their own thing. It's the reason why so many of our kids were not reading, couldn't do math on grade level. We made a lot of progress, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that there was at least one person who was in charge, who could give direction to the chancellor, and you could really drive a system.
See, one of the reasons that he is talking about this idea of changing mayoral control is that parents are clamoring for more say in what goes on in the schools. Do you think that's a legitimate claim? And is there a way to do it without giving up the mayor as the accountable person, as you say?
Parents have long wanted to have their voices heard, and I respect that. And I certainly appreciate that, having raised 4 children of my own. And I heard those same calls from parents even as I was chancellor. But I think there's a way to do it without giving up complete control. My concern is that if you give up complete control, you will have 32 community school districts all over the city now doing their own thing. I'll give you an example. The most recent data that just came out is showing a real uptick in reading and math scores, right?
Which you had a lot to do with.
I laid the foundation for driving that, and the current chancellor, Melissa Aviles-Ramos, is doing a phenomenal job and continuing to push that work. But if you didn't have mayoral control, you would not be able to do that. Every district could do their own thing. That's what they were doing, and that's what got us into the problems that we have now. I certainly understand and appreciate more parent voice. I set up a system that allowed for the communities to essentially choose their own superintendents. That's not something that I had to do, but that's something that because I respect the community and I respect the voices of parents. I think there's a way to find a nice balance without giving up all of the accountability.
See, I think there's a concern on the part of some people that if you were to give up mayoral control, you would lose the sustainability, the expectability, like what you would find in each school. And I think that a lot of people, though, on the other side, what they say is, you know, with mayoral control, what happens to math and reading programs changes with every new administration. And so teachers kind of complain that, okay, if Eric Adams is the mayor, this is the way he's going to do it. When Michael Bloomberg was the mayor, it was a different way. As you recall, you wanted to change things about how people read. You wanted to go to a different system. So is there a problem with mayoral control in that as every administration comes in, there's like a new theory about how you should teach reading, how you should teach math, and how you should teach the other courses?
That is always present. Every time you get a new mayor, you get a new chancellor, and you get a new approach and new priorities, if you will. That's true. But I do think that on balance, when you look at what we're doing under mayoral control versus what the system looked like before, you don't want to. I don't think you want to go back to the old way, because the old way really did not work. Parents have to stay engaged. They got to let the new mayor, the new chancellor know what their priorities are, what they believe in, and they've got to work together for real change.
But what about the idea, I remember the good old days or the bad old days when there were 32 different school districts and there was a lot of corruption.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, there were times where if you wanted to become a principal, you had to pay a certain amount of money under the table to the powers that be in a particular district. That was real. I came up in that system. And that's why I would say that while mayoral control is not a perfect system, it is certainly better. For somebody who did this for 40 years, it is certainly a better system. I think every mayor has to reach out, has to stay engaged with the community. You don't want to disrespect parents and families. That's who we are servicing and their children. And I think it behooves whoever becomes mayor to make sure that they stay there. One of the things I'm most excited about is that I think they got on record. Everybody that was running for mayor said that they would stick to NYC Reads. They want to build on it. They want to expand it. So I don't think that there would be dramatic change around the things that are most important in the school system anyway.
But when you brought in New York City Reads, you totally changed how kids were taught to read. Tell us about that. That
was probably the biggest legacy work during my tenure as chancellor. And it was pretty amazing because we got every union on board with us. A lot of people would say to me, I'm sure the unions were fighting you. Not at all. The CSA, Michael Mulgrew and the UFT. And because they recognized that we were not delivering for parents and families. When parents send their children to school, the one thing that we're supposed to ensure that is going to happen with their kids, that they're going to learn how to read. If we can't do that, we don't have a real reason for existing. And so I did not blame the teachers. I thought that they were doing their dead level best. The problem was that we were giving them the wrong tools. And now what we did was we retrained all the teachers across the system and how to do this work. And we said, you are going to see increases every year for the next several years as we're really moving the system in the right direction. And I think that's what we're seeing now. So you're really proud of the new increase in reading scores? Oh, how could you not be? I mean, ultimately, we want to see that all of our kids have a love for reading, but it's hard to love reading if you don't know how to read. We are ensuring that every child knows how to read, knows how to do basic math, and I think we're on the right track. You know, there's another problem in the school systems now with the rising anti-Semitism and the rising Islamophobia. What do you think the school system should be doing to get rid of that, to make people understand that we're all should be respected for our own views? Listen, that's one of the biggest challenges also that I faced during my tenure. And we devised a whole approach that we call meeting the moment. And ultimately, it's the way you eradicate hate is by ensuring that you are educating young people. You've got to expose them to the contributions of, in this case, you know, the Jewish community, the Muslim and Palestinian community. You create respect and love for each community when our young people are exposed to the contributions of all these communities. And I think that's a big part of what we put in place: new curriculum, new training for our teachers. This is tough, challenging work, but kudos to our teachers and our administrators and our superintendents for driving that. Do you think that the current political climate is exacerbating those feelings among all the various groups of the city? Absolutely. I think what is happening at the national level, and very specifically from the president, is outrageous. We've got teachers, we've got principals who are scared to death all across the system. They have children in their classes. They've got parents who are just terrified. They don't even want to leave home and come to school because they're afraid that they may be abducted by ICE. And I think the president is exacerbating that fear. I think this is by design. And I think it's deeply, deeply unfortunate. And I think it's outrageous. This is not the way to lead. This is not what America should really be all about. I think our strength is in our diversity when we embrace that diversity. And right now, it's been a tough time. And it calls for strong leadership to call that out and to say, not in this America, not in this New York, we can't stand for those kinds of things. Well, on that note, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But we continue our conversations right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. We are back with former school chancellor David Banks. I'm wondering, what have you been doing since you decided to leave the administration? Well, I'll tell you, first of all, after 40 years of public service, it was great just to get some rest. And I feel really good. I've been swimming and I've been biking, I've been traveling. I'm working on my second book, which I'm really excited about. Oh, absolutely. Tell me about it. Well, the book is really going to focus on, I think, the future of education, where I think we're going. One of the big things that I was starting to do before I left was really around AI and how AI, I think, is absolutely going to change the face of education in very significant ways in the coming years.
In what way exactly?
Well, we're still learning a lot about how it will be impacted. But I'll give you an example. We've got kids who are in a school, let's say, in the Bronx, and they may not do so well in math because they don't necessarily have a great math teacher. Why should they be limited in their learning to the teacher that they have within the four walls of the school? Why can't you use technology to expose them to some of the best math teachers across New York City, across New York State?
It sounds to me like the teachers union is not going to like this.
Well, no, but this is part of what I'm saying. I think technology, you have to embrace it. You've got to get in front of it. You've got to figure out how to make it work for us in a way, because ultimately what we're here to serve are young people and make sure that they're getting the best education possible. And I think you can't deny the power of technology and what it can do. We just got to get out in front of it and manage it well.
How do you think that AI will play a role in a classroom? I mean, will teachers embrace it? Will parents embrace it?
The traditional teacher, and I taught for many years as well, traditional teachers got 30 kids in the class with the small class sizes, right? Maybe a little smaller than that now. But even if you've got 20, 25 kids in a class, it's still a lot of kids to try to make sure that everybody gets what they need. Technology will allow us, and AI will allow us to be able to have personalized tutors that will help a teacher in ways that they've never been helped before, and really make sure that every child, nobody falls through the cracks, and everybody's getting the attention that they deserve. We're really just touching the surface of this, Marcia, but that's one of the things I'm using my time with. I'm meeting with lots of organizations who are dealing in this work, developing these products. It's very exciting.
So as you take a look at what's going on in the city now from your perch of not being here, what does it look like to you?
From the education standpoint, it looks good. You know, my successor, Melissa, was my chief of staff. She was deputy chancellor. She actually led the work around the migrant issues, and she was phenomenal. And I think she's doing a great job. We laid out the blueprint. We laid out the foundation, and she has been continuing to drive that work. And she's expanded on it in terms of how you engage parents and families even more. And she's kind of really made that her thing. So I'm very proud of her, and I'm very proud of the team and the work that's happening all across the city. Couldn't be more proud.
What was your reaction to the primary?
Really exciting stuff. I think what excited me the most was to see young people engage in levels that we have not seen before. When I was chancellor, that's one of the things I kept trying to push to all the schools. We need to have student government in every school. We need to make sure that young people's voices are heard. And for a long time, elected officials didn't spend a lot of time with young people because they didn't vote. And now we're seeing record numbers of young people coming out to vote. I find that so exciting. And I think that they're the sleeping giant, young people. They can really shake up the status quo if they're informed and if they're engaged. I think every school in New York and every school across America should be engaging young people to make sure the more informed they are, the more likely they will vote and participate in this democracy.
So how do you feel about the way that you left government, no charges were ever filed? You always said that there was nothing to find. Do you feel sad, resentful, just inured to the fact that it happened and moving on?
Moving on. You know, nobody likes to have any kind of investigation be associated with any kind of investigation. I was always told we were never a target of any investigation. They took my phones. But that is so far my rearview mirror. It's been a year, have not heard another word. There was nothing to hear. And I'm ever focused on the future and making sure that I continue to do what I need to do to help young people and their families.
Do you have a desire to get back into education?
No, not as chancellor, but I certainly have desire, and I'm working on how to support people who believe in the things that I believe in and have the same values. I think I can play a different kind of role as a mentor and a support to people who are doing the work.
The reason I asked that question is, you started the Eagle Academy.
Sure.
You've made some incredible contributions to the education of kids in the New York City area, and I wondered if you missed that, if you were looking for some other avenue to get back into it, because you have such a contribution to make to people.
No, I certainly appreciate that, Marcia. And I visit schools still on a pretty regular basis. I'm asked to come around. I see people on the buses and trains who tell me all the time, thank you for the great job that you did. So I'm not done, but I don't think that I need to play, the formal role that I was playing to still make a contribution.
So my last question is this: what is the thing you're most proud of that you were able to accomplish while you were Chancellor?
Oh, absolutely, the work around literacy and reading. Because I think at the end of the day, we were able to reverse in a very significant way a serious downward trend on reading. That is the #1 thing that I think I will be most proud of. NYC Reads. You know, behind that, we started NYC Solves. I'm really proud of what we did to try to meet the moment around anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. A lot of work that still has to be done in all those areas, but I think what sits at the top was really ensuring to every parent that if they trusted us and they believed in us, we were going to give everything we could to ensure that their child became a proficient reader.
Because, you know, one of the things that I've always noticed is that before you started in as Chancellor, if you went to the Borough of Manhattan Community College and you asked how many kids were in remedial reading and math before they could start their actual studies, there was a huge percentage
That's right.
that had to do that. And I think that's been changed now because of the new program that you started.
And it is changing. And you will see it year over year. You will continue to see that improvement because we started it with kids as early as 3K. And those young people, we're watching kids in 3K who already learned how to read in 3K. It's amazing. So you can imagine what that's going to look like when they show up in high school already. You don't even ask the question, do they know how to read? And so that's something I think I'm most proud of. And I'm just so grateful to the teachers, the principals, and the administrators, and all the members of our team at Tweed for driving it and making this work happen. It takes a team. It wasn't just me.
David Banks, thank you for joining me. And thank you at home for joining us as well.
Thank you.